To give ourselves a little bit of clear space, and we'll stay in close, shoulder bump out for a follow-up elbow, and then back to position. So I drive the shoulder in and I load this side, elbow, back to position. My name's Dean Barthelemy and I'm the MMA coach and one of the no-gi grappling coaches here. Joined today by my training partner and friend Fabrizio. And we're going to take you through a couple of the drills that we like to do in the MMA class when we're talking about pushing your opponent up against the wall. So the first tutorial that we'll do in a series of probably about 6 is just to firstly look at the reference point that we start from. So if I get Fabrizio to be back against the wall, as the opponent driving against the wall, I like to take an underhook position first. And drive my head, especially if you've got a shorter opponent, drive my head under my opponent's chin. I like to control the arm, and I'm going to wedge the arm between 2 areas, so between my hand and either the wall or my partner, or I'll put the arm on me. The idea is to not leave it out in the open. If I leave the arm out in the open and he starts to roll the hand free, it's very difficult to start to control. So I like to go to the wrist and I like to wedge it against the cage. Not necessarily against the bicep, although this is also a good position to control. But the bicep still leaves the arm free for where he can start to roll inside and start to look for inside position. So preferably controlling against the wrist and against the cage. Head under the chin and start to drive up. So the higher I can drive this and the more uncomfortable it is for my opponent, the better. And especially if I can start to unbalance him by bringing him up on his toes by driving my head up. And I will keep the underhook this side. I like to take my front leg and push just in between his legs. It's not heavy, there's not a lot of weight there because the drive is coming off of the back leg. And I'll push into my opponent. Now if I've got a tall opponent, I can manage the same position by pushing my shoulder into the sternum and then squeezing up as well. So I can take the control this side, but like always when I'm in this inside position, when I'm wrestling or doing anything here, I like to keep my neck strong. I won't be looking at the floor just in case my opponent gets his hands free and starts to stuff my head. So I keep a strong posture. Now the way out for my opponent is always going to start to be along the wall this direction. Okay, so I've closed the door here with my underhook. It's very difficult for him to start sliding out this way, but he will start to move this way. And what you'll notice is my opponent will go from quite generally a split step one side through square to a split step in the opposite direction. And we'll use that later on to look at some takedowns that we can pull. So I'm here as he starts to slide out the other side. I'm going to switch my pummel and take control on the other side. I switch my legs and my leg inside, my head under his chin, driving his head up. So if he starts to slide out again, I will get used to pummeling, changing my position, driving my head up. So similar to the pummel you do when you're wrestling, standing wrestling, just used to going from one side to the other. So I'm here, this is his exit as he starts to slide. I'm going to pummel, drive my underhook, drive my leg and my chin in. Now from here, from a striking position, if we go back so the camera can see the angle, from a striking position, what we like to do is use the shoulder bump to give ourselves a little bit of clear space, and we'll stay in close, shoulder bump out for a follow-up elbow, and then back to position. So I drive the shoulder in and I load this side, elbow, back to position. If there's a choice and we want to break from the cage, so we don't necessarily always want to be standing here, if we want to clear ourselves out, we'll shoulder bump, and as we step out, and in this instance, stepping out with my left leg, I'm going to shoulder bump, step out, switch hook, and I'm away. So I can choose the options of staying close, shoulder bump, elbow, back onto my opponent, controlling the wrist, wedging it against the wall, high underhook. Or I can step to clear myself right away from the cage, shoulder bump, step out with my hook. And again, it can be done either side, here, elbow, shoulder bump, step out with my hook, and I'm clear from my opponent. So guys, that's just one of the drills that we like to do. We'll pick up some more activity to think about some takedowns on the next few tutorials. Thanks for joining me here at Roger Gracie Academy, and if you want to pick up any of these activities, feel free to follow me on social media. Click onto rogergracie.com and pick up anything on the gym. So if you're in London, feel free to stop by and come and train. And thanks to Stuart and Warriors Collective. If you want more information, log on to their website as well.